Hey guys, welcome to Under the Arch Sports. I'm Eric Hobbs.
And I'm David Woldingen.
And right now it's time to talk about this Cardinals press conference, what kind of changes we're going to see out of the front office, and what we're not going to see changing with the Cardinals. Before we get into all that, please guys go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave us comments on what you think should happen, and then find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Spotify. Now, David, with this presser on Monday, there's a lot going into it. Sunday, you had kind of the immediate news of, okay, Ollie Marmol, John Mozeliak back for 2025. And of course, you know, fan base throwing their hands up, pissed and everything. What do you make of everything with the front office? Just big picture.
Um, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Um, I guess the good news is this change is coming, but they don't seem to be in a huge hurry. Uh, the biggest take I took over everything is the fact that I feel like not the front office, but ownership is being a little tone deaf, saying they're cutting payroll and all that. Um, and while I get the idea of what they're trying to do, at the same time, it's just bad optics with the way the fans were kind of boycotting the end of the season. Uh, I wouldn't say the team underperformed because I predicted them actually to have an under 500 record, and they proved me wrong there. So to that point, they did what they were supposed to do, in my opinion, this season, just off what was available. Uh, but what that tells me is they're either doing the shift to young players and just going full rebuild, or they're still lost in transition of what they want to do. And that's kind of the thing I'm thinking of with the shift after next year is I think they're still trying to figure out what they want to do, how they're going to reset the minor league system, and where the organization needs to regroup and go from here on out.
Yeah, and I want to address the Mo and Ollie Marmol thing. So John Mozeliak is going to finish out his contract. He has 2025 left on his contract, and then he's done. He is stepping down, retiring, whatever they're going to call it. So Bill DeWitt is good with that. All right, contract year, fine. Once you know that Mozeliak is in the final year of his contract, entering it, I at that point, it immediately becomes impossible in my mind that Ali Marmol is going to get fired. I don't, it's just not how you operate when you know that you have less than a year left on the job to fire a manager and then hire him when there's going to be somebody else in your place within a year. And who knows what changes will come. After 2025, Heim Bloom will take over. Spent this past year as an advisor to Mo. He'll be the president of baseball operations, and he may want to do things differently. So I think once you understand that Mo, in terms of managerial selection, is a little bit of a lame duck. After this coming season, we'll see. If that'll depend on so many other things, off season signings and trades and so forth. But I think that's what you have to understand for this offseason. Now, the rebuild, and I know the front office doesn't want to call it a rebuild or reset, whatever. It's a rebuild. It is restructuring the organization because they have felt the pressure to win more because of their own ineptitude, their own screw ups, terrible free agent signings have all blown up in their face. So to try to put a band-aid on it instead of really fixing the organization, they really shortchange development and kind of minor league type stuff, player development. And they're going to reallocate more resources there, and it's going to hurt the big league club for a while. That's part of why payroll is going to go down, as you said, David. And the other part is you got to look at what's going on with Bally Sports and regional TV coverage. All of that is hurting the Cardinals in terms of revenue from TV. So the Cardinals genuinely a little bit less money to spend. And yes, fans stopped going. And that one, yeah, they are losing out on some money there. But that one, the fans have to do to let them know, look, you may have to lose a percent on your profit margin for a year to try to rebuild this thing properly. And the message is clear. What they do with it, that remains to be seen. I, I don't know. I like the idea of shifting to more player development. That's what the Cardinals did forever and ever.
I,
And
I
and they
forgot who it was, but ever since that the head of player development left for the Astros, it's gone downhill, and whoever took charge of it just kind of let it crumble, if you will. So I think this is kind of their idea of getting back to the root of the problem, which I'm
well, and you
okay with.
and you think about in the last 10 years, you hear about all these different prospects who are supposed to be, the second coming and future, perennial all-stars. Dylan Carlson, I think, is exhibit A. All these great things, and he is a plus defender, but the guy can't hit his way out of a paper bag, at least not in this organization. And, we'll see what comes of his career now that he's left the Cardinals, but I, I
Well,
think what you have is you have prospects who look so much better than everybody else in the organization. But
and
the
I
lack
also
of player development, they're not actually that good. Jordan Walker, lack of player development. All right, maybe you can argue about the metrics of launch angle and so forth, but there's a time where a dude that size with the pop he has can't get the ball more than 5 feet off the ground. That is a problem.
I think there's some disconnect going on too, not with player development even necessarily, but how these players are being utilized. Um, you look at Randy uh Arosa Rena and some
Yeah.
of those guys that the Cardinals have given up and have just flourished elsewhere. The talent evaluation and how they utilize these guys in the minor leagues and in the chances they give them in the major leagues, I think all of that has to be reevaluated because they definitely gave away a ton of talent just off of purely misjudging what they had.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That is absolutely a part of it. You're right about that. And going back to your player evaluation, at the same time, Dylan Carlson was making waves as the next big thing. You didn't hear that much about Randy Rosarina, right?
Right.
Adolis Garcia, didn't hear anything about him really. They came up, and then, of course, the home run derby that'll make all Cardinals fans cringe, where the two walk up to each other, sharing the stage on the home run derby. Was that last year? That 2 years ago, whatever it was. Just brutal for Cardinals fans and a reminder of the failings of the front office and really the organization in terms of recognizing talent as well as developing it. You're right about the evaluation.
Well, and I
Uh,
think that goes back to our free agent signings too. They're
yeah.
over evaluating some players and paying them more, or under evaluating. Brett Cecil is a perfect example of a terrible overestimation of a player, and then he gets hurt, and then they what it was 52 million for 4 years or something, and
Oh, it was ridiculous.
it was a total waste. It was almost like a Bobby Bonilla or Bonilla,
Oh, Bonilla.
yeah, contract, if you will. Just Cecil's just laughing it away while he's on injured reserve, you know.
I get
So,
it.
I mean, the talent evaluation, who they go after, what their thoughts are and what their needs are, all need to be adjusted. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with that mind shift of they went all in on analytics, but they went too far in on analytics
Yep.
in the sense of they tried to rely on numbers for everything. And that's why they parted way with Mike Schilt, because Schilt went with his gut from time to time because he knew the clubhouse, he knew the players, and he got them winning. Uh, they parted ways because of philosophical differences. Really, it was Zalak wanted him to play certain guys based off the numbers, and he wasn't going to do that. And now you're seeing the product of playing by the numbers. It just doesn't work most of the time. You have to have a little bit of that gut feeling. You have to know your players, where they're at, and you just have to give players a chance to prove themselves. And that's where this organization kind of lost its way is like under Tony La Russa, yeah, he went by some of the numbers, but he also went by his gut with how the players are doing. Each day to day, he would talk with them and figure it out. So they need to readjust their whole idea of just straight metrics, if you will, and go back to old school baseball.
Well, I tell you what, the feel I get is that Mozeliak wants to be a manager, but he does not have time in the dugout, time on the field to warrant it. And this is his way of being like a pseudo manager in his eyes. And I think you combine that with maybe going to see Brad Pitt in Moneyball one too many times, and this is the end result. I think I it, he's an executive, a front office guy. Numbers, metrics mean a lot to people like that. And then you have somebody who wants to have their fingers all over the team, and that I think that created the over reliance on the metrics
Well, he
and
definitely
has given you a franchise that top to bottom is just a mess.
he definitely gives off the coach manager vibe in a sense of he refuses to admit any mistakes. And then when people call him out, he just has smug remarks, kind of like his conference today really gave off that smugness, in my opinion.
And that to on the one hand, they're not going to get up there and say, "Man, we are awful." Well, I don't know what we were thinking. This is garbage. Yeah, you guys were right in boycotting these games at the end of the year. I think there are fans who want to hear that, and they're just not being honest with themselves. At the end of the day, they have a job. Bill DeWitt, Bill DeWitt talked about saying that they have an exciting team, and that something they think fans would want to go see. Does he believe that? Probably not. Does he have to say it? Of course he does. He's a business owner. That's what the Cardinals are, a business. He has to say stuff like that. Otherwise, he is just not upholding his responsibility in terms of trying to generate revenue. But that's an entirely different conversation. And the upshot here, David, for the next, and we'll see how quick the transition is and the reset, the rebuild. Cardinals, I think 2, 3 years of woof kind of baseball, worse than worse than this year, where I think they overachieved. Honestly, I think it's going to be about 5 to 10 games worse for 2, 3 years running, and then we'll start to see maybe some player development. Maybe some of the guys from the great trade unloading and prospect grab of 2023. Maybe some of those guys will actually pan out if they can get the tutelage they need with proper player development.
Well, and it's going to be interesting because there's already rumors flying around, especially with the payroll cut that they're talking about. Um, Contreras is one of them, and Sonny Gray's the other, just to dump
That's
salary.
trades.
Huh?
I mean, Goldie off the books is going to help. I mean,
Yeah.
that job is Luke and Baker's to lose by default.
Which I honestly I was kind of excited to see him come up anyway. He showed a lot of promise in the games he was up here. So he'll be fun
Yeah.
to see watch and continue to develop. Uh but there's gonna be a lot of tell signs here coming up soon once they
Oh man.
once they figure out what they're gonna start doing. And you could see another mass set of trades again to kind of rebuild that farm system and just go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really what it is I think what's going to be fascinating is how quickly more resources are allocated to the farm system and put in place. If you can have stuff by spring training, that's all the better.
But until then, we're going to monitor the situation and hopefully keep you guys up to date with any news that comes out of the Cardinal camp, if you will. So make sure you keep watching. Stay tuned for all things here at Under the Arc Sports.